Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the WorryFree Retirement, with your host, nationally recognized retirement specialist and four-time author, Tony Walker.
Hello, my name is Tony Walker, and for more than 37 years I've hosted hundreds of educational workshops of all sorts, sizes, and locations throughout Kentucky and southern Indiana. That is, until March 16th, 2020, right before all heck broke loose due to an unexpected pandemic. You see, due to the difficulty in continuing these workshops and coming to the realization that our television show was already reaching thousands of households each week, we made the decision to discontinue hosting live educational workshops. However, with all of this said, armed with a live audience and my trusty overhead projector, that's right folks, I'm a teacher at heart, I do miss those live educational workshops of the past and educating those in attendance regarding various financial topics. So today, you are in for a real treat as I recreate one of my most popular workshops of all time, Annuities 101. And while I won't have my handy-dandy overhead projector to assist me, I do have in our Louisville studios this morning two wonderful and faithful assistants helping to produce our show, America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander, along with Kentucky's most laid-back graphics artist, Mr. Derek Hudson. So, sit back, relax, grab a pen and paper to take notes, and discover why so many savers love annuities, and you should too, as I share with you today's program, Annuities 101. Welcome, folks, to this brief presentation I call Annuities 101. Now, first and foremost, remember, all of the information I'll be sharing with you is geared toward the financial personality I call a saver. Also, on our site at Tony Walker Financial is a very valuable resource I wrote called Annuities Made Easy. And at the conclusion of today's presentation, I would certainly suggest you download it. But right now, before we get started with our presentation, I got to go back in time. And in the studio with us is America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander. What was going on March 16th, 2020 that was so significant to our operation?
That was a fun day. That was a fun day for all of us. So basically, it was a Monday and you had a workshop that night. And we probably had a record number of like 70 plus people signed up for this workshop. We were all amped up, ready to go. We were going to record the thing, everything. And at about, I don't know, it was like 4:30 or something like that. Came out with the executive order, no more than 10 people in a room.
And we had 5, I think, but then we had 5 and then one object.
Technically, we had 6.
6, yeah, I guess the service dog.
We had the service dog, yeah, there he is right there. And yeah, we technically had 6, so, you know.
And I think the service dog enjoyed it more than anybody. He
had questions. He had questions I'd never heard.
Very, very intelligent dog. And then we had a workshop scheduled the next night at E-Town. We just canceled that. So,
yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Anyway, thanks, Aaron, for reminding us that. And folks, it is really, really important to note why we even talked about that, because basically what I decided to do right after that was I thought, wait a minute, we've got a TV show, we got a radio show, we've got a YouTube channel. We literally have thousands and thousands of households watch our TV program every week. So I just thought we're going to have to scrap the workshops and we're going to do this type of thing. But guess what? I really did miss the workshop. So right now what we're getting ready to do, I'm going to take you through a great workshop that I used to do called Annuities 101. So here we go. So let's start first of all, where do you get information on annuities? Well, one of the ways you do it is through, Derek, let's throw up some of those Google searches. I mean, all you got to do is type in annuities or what's the best annuity, what's the pros and cons of annuities. And I actually did that, quite frankly, folks, and I came up with a retirement guide. I mean, there's a plethora of these. There's all kinds of guides and booklets on the internet, but it's interesting. I downloaded this particular guide from an investor. Remember, folks, the key to annuities is you have to understand they are built for savers. They are not built for investors. And what's interesting, this booklet starts out with everyone's fear of running out of money, which is correct. They talk about the idea that some people like to spend all their money by the time they die. That's kind of the live well, die broke philosophy I live by. But then they say, well, yeah, but you got to be careful of that because you could run out of money. So they pose the question, you don't want to run out of money, do you? And then if you're not careful, if you spend it all, you'll run out of money, which in the investment world is true. Now, if you thumb through here, what's interesting is you can tell these people hate annuities. In fact, they say annuities are pitched as an attractive guaranteed withdrawal mechanism. I like guarantees. I don't know about you. They're pitched as simple products. To me, they're very simple because I work with them for years. In reality, though, they say annuities are complex. That's not true unless you don't know much about them. They're high fees. That's not true unless you buy a variable annuity. And at first glance, they seem like a good option for limiting risk, which is true, but they still say stay away from them. So none of this makes sense, folks, but this is what you're going to see. Most people that are giving financial advice are investors. They are not savers, and therefore they have little understanding of how to use annuities in a retirement plan. Now let's talk about something for a minute, and this is called the Split Ira Concept. We're going to get into fees and how that works in just a second, but I want to make sure you understand it. Tony Walker Financial, we're kind of unusual. You know, most financial advisors are one or the other. They're either into investments or Wall Street products, or they're into annuities. But generally, they don't have an understanding of both worlds, and these are two totally different worlds, as you're going to see. What we do with our Charles Schwab platform, let's say you have a 401k plan, when that gets rolled over, we make a determination on how much we're going to put in the Schwab bucket, which is totally flexible. We have 5 portfolios we manage. And most importantly, rather than a lot of the other guys are charging 1.5% or more, our annual fee is 0.8%. And we do all of the legwork. And then for most people who are savers, we decide on the types of annuities that you might put in this bucket. Some of them are accumulation products. Some are income products. But this is the bucket to make sure you don't run out of money. So here's the facts, folks. Any investments over on Wall Street, which we can offer those, we're fiduciaries, they may not last. They're not guaranteed. That's why you see these periodicals that are reminding you to be careful of spending money because you might run out. Well, that's not the case with our clients, assuming they have annuities. With our clients who have annuities, they can spend and enjoy their money without the fear of running out of money. Now, Derek, I tell you what, why don't you call up the slide that gets into the 3 types of ways we make money in this business. If you can call that up, Derek's over at the helm there. Again, folks, we're trying to reenact that this is how I used to do seminars. There it is. Thank you, Derek. When I used to do educational workshops or seminars, this is what we did. Now, the only thing we're missing here, and Aaron could attest to this, was all the people that asked a lot of questions, which was a lot of fun. But this is the typical thing that people would ask. In other words, Tony, okay, this is all well and good, but how do you folks in this financial world make money? In fact, we do a lot of analytics on our website. One of the most popular click-throughs on our website is that. How do you get paid, Tony? So we assume people want to know that. So let's look at the 3 ways we in the financial world make money on other people's money. Well, the first way is basically assets under management. Now, again, most money managers, including us, charge a fee for the assets you have with them. So let's say you have $1 million or whatever it is, just so I can do the math. If someone charges 1.5% per year, that means they're going to make $15,000 every year, whether you make money or not. That's just what they're going to charge. In our case, at 0.8%, we're going to make $8,000 a year. So you got to watch these fees because they're recurring fees, and this is why Wall Street loves what's called AUM, assets under management, because they're going to get paid every year regardless of how you do. The second way is something called a one-time commission, or OTC. Now, what is a one-time commission and what products generally pay commissions? Well, those would be annuities. You see, annuities are issued by insurance companies. They are not Wall Street products. So let's say you put $1 million with an agent or an advisor, and we sell these products, and let's say the average commission on an annuity is 6%. Well, somebody's going to get $60,000. I mean, there's a lot of money there. Now, arguably, the money manager would say, yeah, but we keep doing a lot of work. Once somebody sells something, it's kind of one and done, isn't it? Well, maybe, but not with Tony Walker Financial. Most agents do not service what they sell. That's what I've seen, but we do. That's why I have a large staff. We have continual processes in place to monitor your annuities. And even though we don't get paid after the sale for the annuity, we feel it's our obligation to continue to service that annuity long after the sale. So that's the second way. So Tony Walker Financial, we get paid in both ways. Fees, if we're managing your money through Charles Schwab, commissions, one-time commissions, paid by the insurance companies to us, that doesn't come out of your pocket, paid by the insurance companies to us for the sale of products such as annuities. And then finally, I love this one, other people's money, or OPM. One of my favorite books I wrote, quite frankly, a lot of people have forgotten about this, but it's a doozy, is Don't Follow the Herd. And in it, I talk about this concept of other people's money. Now, what is other people's money? Well, this generally, we don't work on this basis. This would be the institutions themselves, the banks and insurance companies. So an example would be you run down to the local bank, give them $100,000 for a CD, they pay you 1%. Well, they're taking that money and they're loaning it out. So let's say they get 3% on your money, they get 3, they pay you 1, that would be called the spread. So they're making 2% on other people's money. Insurance companies do the same thing. Right now, the going rate for an individual annuity, an interest annuity, is probably in the 2 to 3% range depending on the company. Well, they're probably making 4 or 5%. They're taking their stuff off the top and they're paying you the difference in the form of a spread. So these are the 3 ways people make money on your money. And the key when you're working with anybody, first of all, they're going to handle your money, especially if it's a large sum of money like a 401k. Be sure the advisor is what's called a fiduciary. A fiduciary is required by law to disclose all of their fees and their commissions, which we do at Tony Walker Financial. The second thing is get it in writing. Folks, this is a show about annuities. I'm seeing more and more of you rush out and you're getting these annuities. You're not getting anything in writing. Nobody's sharing any illustrations because you're coming to me and you've told me you bought these annuities, and I'm saying, what have you even bought? And I said, I don't know. Apparently it paid a bonus or it did this or did that. Folks, this is really, really important. Anybody with an insurance license can sell an annuity. They don't have to be a fiduciary. So here's what I would say. If you're getting ready to buy an annuity, maybe been to a dinner seminar, maybe somebody's pitching this idea of these large bonuses paid on annuities, please, before you rush into a financial decision, see somebody like us for a second opinion. Folks, I've been doing annuities for years. We have written as much annuities as anybody in the country. We know these products well. It's a huge decision. There's many, many types of annuities out there. So you want to get with somebody that's done a lot of annuities. Okay, now speaking of investments, can we go back, Derek, to the Split IRA graphic real quick? I want to show you something. This is kind of interesting. So as Derek's calling that up, we're going to imagine, okay, remember the investment world's over there with Schwab or any money managers that's going to be with whoever they're investing with, and then annuities. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to walk over to the whiteboard. Okay, so we really have 3 different options here. We'll call them the other guys. And let's imagine in all 3 of these instances, you've got $300,000 in a 401k plan. So the other guys, let's say, are going to take that money. They're going to charge 1.5% per year, okay? And let's say in the magical perfect world, they can earn you on average 6% every year. And we're going to look at this over a 10-year window. If you're just now joining us, folks, this is the way I used to do seminars. The only difference was I had the old handy-dandy overhead projector, and I do this kind of stuff for people. It was so much fun, and people have questions. So I'm trying to lay this out the way I used to lay it out, and I knew that this really helped people understand how things worked. So this was scenario number 1. That's one of your options. The other options, you could go to Tony Walker Financial. Our fee is a lot less. We still have to charge a fee. It's 0.8% a year. And just for the fun of it, let's imagine over that same 10-year period, we too earn 6% on your money. Again, this is just hypothetical, but we're trying to compare. Section 3, FIA, stands for Fixed Indexed Annuities. Again, folks, if you want to learn the truth about annuities, go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, download that Annuities Made Easy. You'll see the difference between income and accumulation products. We're going to imagine this is an accumulation annuity, okay? And we're going to imagine there is no fee on this, which there isn't. And just to be fair, because annuities are not set up to have the kind of growth possibility of in market conditions like those 2 and above, but we'll say it averages 3%. Okay, so on the surface, at the end of 10 years, the other guys, after fees, would have $461,894. Not bad, okay, after their fees. Under the same circumstances with Tony Walker Financial, obviously we have less fees, $495,000. So look at this. People say, how can I beat the effects of inflation, or how do I get ahead of inflation? Well, one thing is, look at the darn fees, what's happened. Just by cutting those fees in half, with Tony Walker Financial under the same scenario, you've got $34,000 more at the end of 10 years. That sounds like a pretty good way to beat inflation to me rather than just handing it over to somebody else. Now here's what's interesting. The annuity, no fees, but we're assuming it only made 3%, is worth around $403,000. So stop right there. Anybody in their right mind looking at this would say, well, of course, Tony, I would do that. That's gave me the most money. That's the best internal rate of return in a perfect world. The problem is, folks, we don't live in a perfect world. What I'm going to do now is imagine, remember last year we referred in this show to the pandemic, the market went down over 30%. Imagine you're retired now. We're going to take this 10-year window and we're going to assume we're no longer in a perfect world, and we're going to imagine in year five, there was a 30% drop in the market, okay? That's all we're doing. We're just imagining at the beginning of the year, everybody's having fun, you're making plenty of money, the money managers are making you 6, the FIA is making you 3, but all of a sudden we have another pandemic or whatever, and the market goes down 30%. Now, at the end of 10 years, what does this look like? This is crazy. All right, just that 1 year of losses, then the market gets back and you start earning 6%. Instead of having 461 over here, you would have roughly only about $305,000. Folks, just 1 year of losses, that drops that down over $150,000. Is Tony Walker Financial affected by losses? Absolutely. Not as bad because, again, our fees helped mitigate some of the losses. That still doesn't look all that great. You're in the 5th year, you put in 300, you got 327, but now you got to start climbing back up that mountain. It's almost like you fell off the mountain, now you got to start over. Now here's the beauty of a fixed indexed annuity and why you better understand these products, especially if you don't like the idea of a stock market correction. What we did, we ran this out. Remember, with a fixed indexed annuity, when the market dives like this, listen closely, you have a new floor. If the market dives, you don't lose anything. Aaron, if you can kind of slide over here, let me show you what I'm talking about. So let's say year 1, the market goes up. You make a little bit with a fixed indexed annuity. Year 2, 3, 4. Now all of a sudden when the market dives, guess what? With a fixed indexed annuity, you do not go down. You have a new floor. So in the subsequent years when it starts climbing back up, guess what? You start riding right back up with the market. Folks, it's a no-brainer if you ask me. If you don't like the thought of a lot of risk, I don't know why you wouldn't at least consider these products. So let's keep going out. This is really interesting. So just to summarize, in a perfect world, the other guy's charging 1.5% on the $300,000, made you 6%, you got $461, you're happy. You later on found out, hey, if I did the same thing, 6% with Tony Walker Financial, because the fees are so much lower, I'd even have more money. Great way to beat inflation. Over here, because you wanted to play it safe and you didn't like fees, the FIA at 3%, you don't have as much money. You're not really excited. But we have a market downturn beginning of year 5 of 30%. Now, this really is only worth $305 at the end of 10 years, right? Because it dropped so much. This is only going to be worth about $327. But look at the fixed indexed annuity. It's still worth $300. Aaron's looking like I can't read that, Tony. It's still worth $391,000. Look how far ahead this is. And you say, Tony, I don't understand. This doesn't make sense. How could that number be so much bigger? Well, you had two forces at work. And again, people are worried about inflation right now. That's, the number one fear of running out of money the number one fear, of course, has always been running out of money. Not so now. As we record this show on September 21st, 2021, people are worried sick over something called inflation. They're worried that their money will not buy as much in the future as it does now. You don't believe me? Just run out and buy goods and services now. Things are going through the roof. So what can you do? Well, you can either take more risk and hope the market works out. Well, that's pretty scary stuff as we see. Or what you can do is what we're talking about here. You can reduce risk. You can reduce fees. We haven't even gotten into taxes. We can show you ways to try to mitigate the taxes. But you can kind of get this money, as we say, steady as she goes. This kind of reminds me, as I look at this and think through kind of a metaphor, is the tortoise and the hare, right? The hare takes off, goes blazing ahead of the tortoise, lays on the side of the road and goes to sleep. Here comes the tortoise just kind of plodding along. Well, that's what we're doing with fixed indexed annuities. This is why I like to call this sleep insurance. Okay? So what happens is you go to bed at night with an annuity, especially if it's a fixed indexed or fixed interest annuity, and you know that if the market were to tank when you wake up the next morning, that fixed indexed annuity has that new floor. You're not going to lose any money. So my question is, why in the world would you be listening to people who hate annuities when all the while, if you're a saver, you should probably love these products? Now, again, are we saying you should all put all of your money in an annuity? That's not what we're saying at all. But to take information from the general public, from Wall Street, from financial entertainers, and just because they say they're complicated and they're hard to understand, well, that would be like saying the Bible's complicated and hard to understand, so just steer clear of it. Oh, speaking of the Bible, we're going to do that right now. Let's do this. I'm going to go grab me a cup of coffee. When I come back, one of the most interesting verses in Scripture about this whole thing of loving and hating things and why you can't do both at the same time. I'm Tony Walker. I hope you're enjoying this. When I come back, we'll see what the Bible has to say about this. You stay tuned. Warning. A licensed insurance agent with no prior knowledge of annuities can legally toss your 401k into an annuity. Don't get stuck in the wrong annuity. Get a second opinion from TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today. Today's topic has been about annuities, but there's an underlying theme that you may have missed, and that's this notion that when it comes to annuities, many investors representing Wall Street hate them, while some advisors, such as myself, love annuities. So who is right about this topic? Well, therein lies the problem, because it doesn't matter who is right. What matters is what's right for you. You see, folks, over the years, here's what I've learned in this business. There is no perfect financial product, and there is no terrible financial product. The key is to know thyself and invest in products that are best suited to you. And as you're in this search of products and advisors to help you determine which products are in your best interest, the key is not to fall into this ugly state of mind of hating or loving one over the other. You know, Jesus reminds us of the dangers of this love-hate relationship and the troubles it will create in our walk with the Lord in Matthew 6:24, where he says, "No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will hold to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon." Now, I'm not going to get too deep into this verse, but of special note is this word mammon, which, yes, it means money, but it also means to place confidence in something other than God. And by your confidence, or some might say your arrogance, we begin to serve that which we love, those things other than God and His people, and sometimes, and unfortunately, begin to hate the very things God was available to make available to those He wants to make available to. You see, friend, once you and I become overconfident in the things we think we know, the love we have for others can soon turn to hate, especially if we see that others love the things we tend to hate. This practice of hating what others might love is not only wrong, but it is evil. God is reminding us that we can't love opposites, nor should we try. If I love annuities, fine. But that doesn't mean you should hate other investments, or I should hate other investments, because if I hate the very thing that others love, I create a tension that robs the joy out of me and others who my dogmatic attitude might affect. So we must choose love over hate. And if you hate something, avoid it. But don't tell others to hate it as well. It would be like you loving a certain automobile. Now, obviously, there are hundreds of different automobiles of all sorts, shapes, sizes, and colors. To assume everyone should love the same type of car that you drive and hate the rest would be absurd, but this is what many in the financial world profess, and it is an evil practice at best. Because Once you go down that hate road, it's hard to find a good place to pull off and turn around. Man cannot fix hate. Only God has the power to do that. Don't believe me? Take a look at one of the most religious men that ever lived who hated Jesus Christ and those who followed him. In fact, he hated Christians so much, he was responsible for having them killed. Yet, while all of this hate, something miraculous happened to this man named Paul. God turned his hate into love. In fact, his love for God became so great that he preached the good news of Christ to the very people he once hated, Christians. And what was Paul's message to both of those who loved God and to those who hated him? Take a look at Romans chapter 14, verse 22, which simply says, "The faith which you have as your own conviction before God. Happy is he who does not condemn himself in what he approves." So therein lies the question as we try to find out what's in your best interest and who to trust with your money. The first question you got to ask yourselves to note is, where am I supposed to invest this money? But that's really not the main question. The main question is, how are you wired for money? Are you more likely to want to safeguard your money and not put it at risk? Well, assuming you are more concerned about the return of your money than on it, guess what? You're probably a saver. And if that's the case, you're going to love the many benefits that annuities offer. On the other hand, if you're someone who is wired for investing and enjoy researching and you're okay with the ups and downs of the market, guess what? You're probably an investor and you're probably going to hate annuities. And since this show is dedicated to savers, let me invite those of you who are savers to turn off all the hate you're hearing about annuities and take the time to learn how these products really work and the truth behind them. See why the safety and security of an annuity is exactly what most savers love about them. And don't forget, if you are that person who's concerned about inflation or worried about running out of money, you're really gonna love annuities. So what's the next step? Well, the next step is to contact me, Tony Walker, either by phone or through the internet. To do so, all you got to do is log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. And when you get there, you're going to see that Let's Get Started button. Now, when you click that, that information is sent to our offices. It will be held in strictest of confidence, and we will follow up with you to schedule either a no-obligation phone call with myself, or if it warrants, I'll be happy to meet with you in our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. That's right, you're going to be meeting with the owner of the company, and there is absolutely no cost or fee to do so. So take advantage of that. Log on right now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call the toll-free number on your screen. Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's program. I've certainly enjoyed being with you. Don't forget to download those free booklets at TonyWalkerFinancial.com, and we'll be happy to answer all of your questions on annuities or any investment for that matter. But you remember, between now and next week, if all else fails, you be worry-free. Make it a good one.